Hello, my name is Katerina Gorkovenko. I am a research associate at the University of Edinburgh, and today I will be presenting a research study called Exploring the Future of Data-Driven Product Design, which was published at KITE 2020. It is part of a larger project called Chatty Factories, which was funded by the EPSRC, and I will be presenting the work on behalf of my co-authors, Dr. Daniel Burnett, James Thorp, Dr. Daniel Richards, and Dr. Dave Murray Rust. The work was done in collaboration between the universities of Edinburgh and Lancaster University. Once released onto the market, physical products can be used in contexts and for purposes that designers may not have anticipated, and insights from these contexts can be very valuable for design research. We see an opportunity to utilize data-driven approaches such as those used within the digital product sphere, such as A/B testing and analytics, around IoT products and connected devices. This work aims to map the space of choices available to design teams, and it was done through a series of workshops. There is a drive within industry to make use of data collected from the wild, and it has an impact on maintenance. However, it has a limited reported impact on design more specifically. In contrast, within the field of HCI, we see data collection from products in the wild as quite commonplace for design research, and examples of this is contingent experience sampling, where triggers from data are used to generate response requests to participants, or ethnomining and thing ethnography, where collected data in the field supports contextual inquiry, and data-enabled design, where technology probes collect qualitative data alongside quantitative data in order to support design research. However, there are issues with implementing these research methods within industry, which is more generally criticized for utilizing data collection, which perpetuates practices that are seen to disempower consumers, such as surveillance capitalism and presumption. Traditional physical product design cycles extend to the moment that a product is deployed. In contrast, when it comes to digital products, the data collection and research continues long past products is deployed onto the market. Within physical products, data has been seen to be very beneficial in the development of new designs, such as in the Hövding helmet, where a second iteration of the design was generated after 3,000 stage accidents and data collected from 2,000 hours of cyclist data. This is an example of attitudinal research. We conducted 3 workshops with 32 participants total from industry and academia who reported having expertise in IoT and product design. Each workshop was 3 hours long, and they were conducted across the United Kingdom in Lancaster, Edinburgh, and London in order to recruit a varied cohort of participants. Participants did a series of exercises in groups of 3 to 5 people, and the exercises were centered around large A1 sheets of paper on which we collected data. Each table had an audio recorder on it, and the data that we collected included the audio transcriptions from each table, all of the written notes from the different groups, and everything was transcribed and thematically analyzed. The workshop structure included a demo, talking to object section, future vision challenge, implications, and discussion. Within the demo, we presented work that we have already done within the field, where a connected Bluetooth speaker sends data to its virtual representation, or also known as a digital shadow or a digital twin. In the next exercise, the talking to objects exercise, we asked the participant to generate a series of questions that can be answered through data collection around an object. And as you'll see throughout the slides, I have an image of a kettle with a bunch of sticky notes on it, which was generated through this exercise. In each workshop, we had a different object to be annotated. So in Lancaster, we had the kettles. In London, we had audio recorders. And in Edinburgh, we had an electric scooter. After that, we had the Future Vision Challenge, where participants spoke about objects, products that they are actually working on, or they imagined an object that they might be designing, and then they generated a series of questions around that could be answered through data. And this is an example from one of our participants in the Edinburgh discussion.
So This is Marty, the robot. So it's a project I'm a product designer at Moscow. We made Marty the robot. So we're actually undergoing a revamp of the product at the moment, so it's quite relevant to discuss it here. So Marty is a robot that helps young people learn about robotics, engineering and maths within a primary and secondary school context. So there's 9 motors within the robot, so the 1-inch arms are the eyes and there's 3-inch in the legs. So a common place where the robot has been broken in the past is this leg here. So it twists to move. So what Pack is doing is grabbing them, twisting them until they break. So what we have in each one of the servos, we've got custom servos that have pressure motors in them. So we can understand the force of them. So it's essentially a current sensor, so we can understand how much current we apply and how much pressure. So we're able to identify that the main reason this robot's getting broken is because there's too much pressure we apply to the knee. So we've been able to fix that in the future using plastic fins.
Afterwards, we conducted an implications discussion where the participants spoke about the implications of implementing a data-driven design approach within their personal work. And finally, we had a group discussion where everyone from each individual workshop came together and we spoke about future opportunities for data-driven product design more generally. And from all of the transcriptions of notes and audio recordings, we thematically analyzed them and generated 8 themes. The key findings in the space are around live data gathering, generating design insight, product development and redesign, user-centered design, support and service products, and issues. So the first theme that we're going to talk about today is live data gathering, and here's the little robot that our participants spoke about. So the experts felt that the primary use of data gathering from the wild is to capture sensor data, which can capture how users are using the objects, wear and tear, functional failures, and the context of use. So here P16 reflected, what you would want to do is identify people within that population who you think are otherwise similar so that you can understand when the profile of one changes. Is that because of a factor that is particular to them, or is it because it is affecting everybody? Then the participants reflected on how they might actually generate insight from this data. Here they identified that a data-driven approach would be very useful in the exploration of specific design research questions, such as when conducting an A/B test or a usability test or an ethnographic study. They also had ideas about how to make sense of the data, such as through the use of machine learning. Maybe when you go into work, you would see the last 24 hours of activity, and maybe there's an opportunity to create collaborative dashboards, or to even engage consumers within feedback and actually engage them in questions around what the data actually means. Here, a key quote from a participant was from P32, who said, "You have taken a recommendation, you have looked at the compromise, you match that against your brief, you virtually design it, you test it, you prototype it, you submit a change request, you get feedback." Within the theme of product development and redesign, the participants speculated that in the future, algorithms would be able to take care of the center of this hypothetical data bell curve, where it could be a bell curve connected to how the majority of consumers are using a specific device, what times they're using it at, and so on. And in the future, designers might instead focus on the fringes of that data set. Are there needs that are currently not being met by the current design of a device? Is there some changes that can be made that would cater to certain ethnographies or groups or needs? And here P2 reflected, is your job to look at the data and the machine learning is generating, or is your job to just look at the outliers? Within the theme of user-centered design, the participants speculated that a data-driven design approach would actually enable a truly user-centered design where participants, consumers, would be engaged in creating knowledge, and they might actually be created in a process of co-design and co-creation. Here P11 reflected, why don't we get the users to design the product that they need and provide the mechanisms with which they can do that? Another theme that emerged was supporting and servicing products. And Here, some interesting examples came from participants who had worked within the aerospace industry, where, for example, Rolls-Royce jet engines aren't actually sold, they're leased to companies, and they collect vast amounts of telemetry data, which is used in maintenance. This telemetry data is currently used post hoc. However, participants reflected that a data-driven process would actually encourage companies to build lasting products that can be easily maintained in order to actually reduce the cost of servicing. Here P3 reflected, I hope to be able to use the live data streams in order to debug. It is overheating. Has someone smacked it? These things would help me resolve issues quicker and offer better customer service as a result. However, the participants did identify many ethical issues with the process. Some connect to disempowering users by reducing their privacy, manipulating their behavior, and limiting informed consent by making data collection into a black box. Similarly, this process might disempower designers as well by handing over creative practices to data scientists and algorithms. Here P2 reflected, if you find out that actually people need better tires because they're driving over the speed limit, do you then produce tires that encourage people to go faster? And if you don't, do you then become responsible for advising them to buy tires that don't meet their needs? Within the theme of implementation issues, the participants identified that there are significant costs around sensorizing products, data storage, and analysis. Furthermore, there were issues around the need for more flexible manufacturing processes and around data quality and bias. P2 reflected, if we say that we're a software company and we're going to get this data in the next 5 years, they're going to say that you're investing in the next Uber, the next Google. But if you say I'm going to make kettles and they've got data in them, they're going to ask how much are your production costs and how much are you going to sell the kettles for? Finally, on the theme of Utopian Future, we saw the participants were able to envision a future where everyone benefits, including businesses, creatives, and consumers. Consumers get well-designed products that cater to their needs. Creatives get a valuable insight around behaviors in the wild, and producers benefit by creating desirable products. Within this theme, some participants shared positive stories, such as an example from Nike, who were able to gauge when there was a flu epidemic from data that they were gathering from their devices. And in relation to that, P3 reflected, I think we're going to have a world of sand and gemstones in a way, where every little optimization that we get from this way of thinking is like a grain of sand, and overall we get a beach that we all like. But occasionally we will get a few gems, like the Nike example, where you have these wonderful things that leap us forward in a big way. The discussion has been shortened for the purposes of this presentation. However, a key point that we would like to make is that we feel that there's a potential to actually expand notions of data-driven product design from where they currently stand, which is around optimization and maintenance. We propose that a desirable data-driven design tool would enable designers to actively investigate research questions, and this can be done in two ways. Firstly, by sensorizing prototypes used within design research, and secondly, by utilizing data from connected products post-manufacture to inform the early stages of design of new species or versions of that product. In conclusion, the work presented here primarily contributes a current industry and academia perspective on the future of data-driven product design. It explores what might happen if data from devices in the wild is used for design research and sense-making. The experts felt that usability tests, A/B tests, and ethnographic studies can all be supported through data gathering from products in the wild. In turn, this data-driven approach can enable the redesign of hardware and software and enable a truly user-centered design. However, issues still remain around the ethics, privacy, security, and costs of implementing a data-driven design process. Finally, I would like to thank all of our participants for their time, the Chatty Factories Project, Digital Catapult for hosting our event and advertising it in London, and for Census for advertising our event in Scotland.